Hey guys, I am so glad you stopped by today. Today, not only, first of all, excuse the mixer. I'm actually working on a new way to make buttercream frosting that I just learned I really want to try. And it doesn't change my recipe any, it's just how it's done. So that's going to be fun, but that's got to run for an hour. And if you'd like to see a video on it, let me know. It'd be a quick video also, just on the icing. But we are going to make coleslaw. It is something that has been around since the beginning of time. I, oddly enough, up to her recently, have never made it. But my great aunt, my Aunt Norma, used to make this for us when we were kids. But she always used her meat processor, her meat grinder, that cranked by hand, and she did it until she couldn't do it anymore, and then we just quit having homemade coleslaw. And I have never been able to find anybody store-bought or restaurant-wise that makes a coleslaw that has that fine of a cut to the coleslaw, to the cabbage itself, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, but I just recently thought to myself, I have a thing for my food processor. I can grind it down. Now, that did work my KitchenAid mixer into a frenzy. It's not designed to do cabbage. But I did find a food processor. We'll bring it down finally without turning it into slush. And that's what we want, right? So that's what we're gonna do today. But I have made this recipe now, I promise you, a dozen times in the last 3 weeks. That's how good it is. That we can't stop eating it, and everybody I've made it for has just truly loved it, and I think you will too. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. I hope you get something out of this video. Check out some of the other ones if you're so inclined. If you're returning or a new subscriber, thank you very much and welcome back. Hands down. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Yeah, all that helps. Algorithm is necessary. We're really trying to grow the channel, and I'm about to start doing 2 videos a week again, so hopefully that'll work out well. But comments always welcomed. Just all I ever ask, like any other time, be polite. It's okay to disagree, me or anybody in the comments. You can even tell me that I talk too much, I know. Just be polite on how you do it, right? So, that being said, I will give you all your measurements in tablespoons, teaspoons, cups, also in grams and milliliters, where it need be, and that way everybody can play along, right? So let's head on down here to the counter where we can get started. Hold on for me just 1 second. All right, so in order to get this started, you only need a couple things, really. I'm using a food processor, but like I said, if you don't have one, you can, shred your cabbage however you like, or if it makes it too fine for you, that's fine. I know when I make kraut, which if you guys would like to see a video on that, let me know. I already made 1 batch. Well, I started it. It takes 6 weeks for it to become kraut, but you can just cut this up into small thin slices and then cut it crossways so you have little small pieces of your desire. But I am using a food processor. That way it gets it down into just really super fine minced cabbage chunks, and then I'll need a bowl and a knife, a peeler, and a spatula to scrape things out with. But first thing we're going to do is I've got what is a pound and quarter of cabbage, and that's after I've taken the big leaves off the cover leaves off the cabbage, and I quartered it. Already, and this is 1 1/4 pounds. Most of the cabbage I buy is right around 4-pound heads, so I can take half of that. That's 4 pounds raw weight, so before I've done anything. So I can take half of that and make slaw with. It's actually kind of a small head. And then, or the whole thing and make slaw with. And then I'll buy some more to do sauerkraut with. So I'm just started making my own sauerkraut. That way I've always got it on hand. But anyhow, we're talking coleslaw. So I've got a pound, you want a pound and a half worth of cabbage, and that's cut weight, so about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds pre-cut maybe will do the job. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a knife, make sure it's a sharp one. Cabbage is kind of hard to cut through with a sharp knife, let alone a dull knife. And I'm going to start out by just cutting these into strips. Alright, so we got it cut down into strips, and what I meant by strips, this is the same way I would make my slaw, is I cut them down, see how they're nice and thin, just a hair wider than maybe a quarter, or a coin for that matter in general. but they don't have to be perfectly even. So then what I'm going to do, because I'm going to put this in my processor, and I'm assuming you would want to do this too, is I'm going to go ahead and cut, now that I've got it cut this way into strips, we'll just go ahead and cut it so we get just some chunks, about 1 to 2 inch chunks. Okay, so we got our chunks cut. We're thin sliced and about yay wide. And it's going to vary. Mostly on your food processor. You could probably also use a blender with this. But if you were doing this by hand, just keep cutting it down to the size that you want once you get those strips. So you can make them, however big of pieces that you and your family like. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this sauerkraut to one side here, and now I've got 2 carrots. We'll talk about those here in a second. And I've got my food processor out, and the smaller chunks you can make, the more you can get in here. But this is going to take about 3 batches. You don't want to overcrowd it. And I am using a 6-cup, 40 ounce, 50 ounce food processor. Oh, we got 5 minutes on that butter. Food processor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply run this on high, low, and pulse until I get this all shredded. So when I come back, I'll show you. But I'm going to do it in sections. Also, it's going to take me about three turns. Don't overload it, overcrowd it. You just end up with a sloppy product on the inside. Okay, so we've got our coleslaw's done. Now what I did there, and I guess I should explain more how I process this. What I did is I process on low. Alright, so on low, sometimes I'll do high, but most times it's low. And then after a minute or so, when I think it looks like I've got all my stuff chopped up to the same size, because the last thing you want to do is stick your fingers down in there, is I'll pulse it a couple times. Now by pulsing it a couple times, what it does is it kind of rotates the cabbage inside of here, and it allows me to see if I have any bigger chunks left that I may want to get rid of. So we'll go ahead and get this last little bit of coleslaw out of here and into our bowl, which is where your spatula comes in handy, and that's just to get the stuff out of the bowl other than to mix it all together in the end. Alright, now we got our slaw, our cabbage is cut, and here, let me show you real quick about how this is how we like our cabbage cut. See how fine that is? Now, a lot of homemade cabbages, aren't that fine, and which is fine. I forgive the term. You cut it to suit you and yours, right? That's just how we like ours, and unfortunately, I can't cut that even all the time with a knife. And the food processor works for us. Now, like I said, I think you could probably get away with using a blender also. I don't know. If you try it, or that's how you do it, let me know down in the comments below, or if you have a way to make your coleslaw, let us know if there's something different. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my carrots and I'm going to use my peeler. Now it's an old school, not quite the arm out peeler, but that's all right. And when I peel mine, I simply hold it in my hand like this so the top's out, and I run my peeler across, and I hold onto your carrot tight, and then that way I can just simply turn it with those 2 fingers and get the skin off the outer of it. Okay, now we got our carrots peeled, and I got 2 of them. Now you can't just use 1 large carrot, which is I think what the original recipe called for, but I don't own any large carrots. I buy the cheapest carrots I can organically, and they're the small ones, that aren't done. Now I go ahead and I just cut the ends off of them. I don't cut the big end off, and if you can see right there, see how it's not cut or not scraped, peeled all the way to it, because that's what I'm going to hold on to eventually. That's where I know to stop, so I don't cut my hand or scratch my hand off. Scratch my hand up. Woo! So now I can just take my box grater, right, and I can start running my carrots on the big shred right there. Or if you have a hand shredder, like I have one for cheese, but it has several different gigs on it that come with it to allow you to do different things like vegetables and cheese. So I can shred vegetables if I wanted to. And if you're using organic, like true organic carrots, you don't have to necessarily peel them, just wash them. I peel just because I don't trust I don't trust other people, and I don't want like something on my carrot that may, you know, hurt me or my family. But anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and get these two grated. All right, we got our carrots grated, our cabbage is shredded, and we're almost done. There's literally like just 4 more ingredients, and they're all pretty easy ones. So the next thing I'm going to add to it is I'm going to add some mayo to it. I use Duke's. You use whatever you prefer. Hellmann's is another good choice. I mean, there's a lot out there, but you use the ones you like. I like Duke's just based on the fact that it's not sweet. I have learned that you have sweet and you have savory mayos. Duke's is like a savory mayo, and I really like those. Now, I have learned to make my own mayo also. If you would like me to, I will do a video on that. It's really super easy to make mayo. But I'm using my scale. You want to start with a cup, which is 220 grams of mayo. Now, I know for at least in our liking, it takes a cup and a half, which is 330 grams for the amount of cabbage and carrots I'm using to make what we like. But start out with a cup, which is what the original recipe went for, with a pound of cabbage. That way you can kind of make it, you know, the way you like it. But I got 330 grams worth of mayo in there, like such. Go ahead and set that to the side. And I know, mayo is so unhealthy. Everything's unhealthy. Moderation. That's all I'm gonna say. But, all right, so next thing we need to add to this is 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, just plain old. I'm putting it in my coffee, my cupcakes, my cereal sugar, and it's 1/3 cup, which is 67 grams. Now, I go a light 1/3 of a cup at 60 grams. That way, I feel like I'm being somewhat healthy. Yeah, but it's 1/3 of a cup, 67 grams is the next thing we want to add to that. And then we're going to put a little bit of healthiness in this. Not much. I've got some lemon juice. Now, you can use fresh squeezed. I like the consistency of bottled lemon juice. That's just what it comes down to. I think if you were going to make things, especially things over and over again, you would want consistency for it. Consistency. It's the same lemons every time. But we are going to put a tablespoon and a half, as soon as I find the tablespoons, tablespoon and a half, which is 23 milliliters of lemon juice in there. And we are going to follow that up with 2 tablespoons or 30 milliliters of apple cider vinegar. And I absolutely love apple cider vinegar. It is good for you. There's nothing unhealthy really about vinegar in general. And apple cider vinegar is actually just amazing. It has a really good flavor. But you gotta like vinegar, man. You gotta like, yeah, you gotta like vinegars. Vinegar really is good for you. So now we're down to 2 more ingredients, and I'm gonna tell you the salt. I'm using kosher salt. I am just putting a pinch in, which my pinch is about 1/4 of a teaspoon or 1 gram of salt. And this is something that you can adjust to suit your preference. That just seems to work for me. And then I'm going to put a really big pinch of black ground pepper at about 2 grams, you know, half a teaspoon of pepper in there. And like I said, that's something that you'll want to make your own. I'll go ahead and get my scale off from underneath there. Last thing we got to do, give this a stir. Okay, guys, so we got her done. Right there we are, looking good, nice and creamy, right? So now our next step, we can't eat this right away. There's no rule that says you can't, and it tastes really good. But I found it tastes even better if you let it sit overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the fridge where it'll be good in the fridge for about 3 or 4 days. After about that 3 or 4 day mark, you're going to see that it's going to start to get watery. It might even happen sooner. It might get a little watery, or the cream might thin out, and that's because that salt is helping the cabbage and the carrots to release their liquids, their water. But it's still very good. This stuff will be good for about 5 to 6 days in your fridge, fresh, as long as it's in a sealed tight container. All right, I am going to go ahead and get this in the fridge. I'll put it in containers, get it in the fridge, but when I come back, we're going to try some of this. All right, hold on for me just 1 second. All right, so got everything cleaned up, put away. And now we can try our coleslaw. All right, there we are. I mean, this is the coleslaw that I had actually made a day or so ago. So, I mean, as you can see, after 2 days, looking good, you know. And I know it tastes good, but I've made this a few times already, like I said. Absolutely amazing recipe. I don't do side dishes very often, but this is well worth doing a video on. And I think you'll like it. You notice it got quiet a while back. My hour's up on my butter, so now it's off to make frosting after this. But let's give this a try so we can see where we're at. Let me tell you a story about that's good. It's so creamy, so creamy. If you like creamy, sorry about that. If you like creamy, this is right up your alley. Like I said, if you don't like creamy, hands down, back the mayo off a little. Play with it and adjust it the way you like it. But I think the way it is right now is it's a perfect blend of savory, sweet, refreshing, and in my opinion, this is my opinion, out of all the salads, macaroni, potato, coleslaw, this is probably the healthiest for you. They both, all three have almost the same ingredients. Almost. Mayo is usually a base. But you don't have the macaroni noodles, you don't have the potatoes, you don't have all that starch in there. And I think that is important. And I know it has not affected me, because some of you may know, I've been trying to diet and drop a few pounds. This has not added anything to me, so that's kind of good. I don't eat it every day, but it's a nice treat. So anyhow, give it a try. Or if you have a recipe that you do, let us know in the comments down below or over on Facebook. Either way, I've been really good about getting on Facebook and sharing things and seeing what's going on and answering any questions that may come along. And it's been a lot of fun. But comments down below are always awesome. Or if you give this one a try, let me know. So tomorrow for a dessert, I don't know what we're going to do yet exactly, but I found a cobbler of all things. I know it's warm out, but I think this is going to be amazing. It screams summertime and fall all at the same time, or any time for that matter. But we may not do that at all. But anyhow, I have to get to my buttercream and see how that goes. And I hope you give this a try. So until tomorrow for dessert, I love you. I love you very much. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else you love them and love them very much. They may need to hear it, you know, especially nowadays. It'll make them smile. It'll make them feel good on the inside. It'll warm their heart, make you feel good and smile too, just to tell them. You make them some of this coleslaw, have a little bit of it with dinner. You know, any of those recipes we've got in the catalog, we'll go with this coleslaw, I guarantee it. But it's going to make them smile on the very first bite. And they're going to be like, holy cow, and it's going to lead to a story and conversation, right? So, until tomorrow for dessert, I love you. And I will see you then. All right? See you later. Bye-bye.